Okay, this is where when you get off the freeway, they have this pavement over here. So they have over here is where you get off the freeway. They're repaving it right now in preparation for the pageant because they have so many visitors here. In fact, this is bridge up here straight ahead is the new bridge they built just last year, and they postponed the construction until after pageant because they have so many people that visit during pageant. But you can see this is a brand new bridge. They built it next to the freeway and then set it in here right after pageant last summer. This is the road towards the Hill Cumorah that you'll go on when you get off the freeway. And it's the road between Palmyra and Canandaigua that Oliver Cowdery talked about in letter number 7, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. But all along here is some farms and forests, and a few people live along the side of the road. You'll see up here when we get there that they're starting to set up for the pageant. Today is the 27th of June, I think, right? So the pageant doesn't start for another couple weeks, but it takes a long time to set up for it, and so they've already started. They've set up the light systems and the speakers, and they're putting in some of the stage right now. Again, we'll talk more about that when we get on site. Okay, now we're coming up on the Hill Cumorah area. You'll see a big parking area here on the right, which is where all the cars park. So they have a real well organized system. Hill Cumorah Visitor Center, you see the sign there. On the left here was the distribution center for the welfare. On both sides of the street they have parking. You can see some of the trailers here on the right. That's where all the equipment is stored to set up the stage, the big Mayan temple that they set up here. Here's parts of it right there. And you can see here, we'll come back here in a minute, and you can see the stage there that they're setting up. There's the visitor center also, newly paved parking lot as well. And we'll take a quick tour through there when we come back. Okay, moving ahead now, we're headed from the Hill Cumorah towards downtown Palmyra. And this is just some rolling countryside with farms. Church owns the farms on both sides of the street here for quite a ways up in this area. They lease it out to local farmers. And then there's a couple of farmhouses along here. 1 mile north of the Hill Cumorah is where there's an Oliver Cowdery Memorial. And it's a little kiosk set up to discuss Oliver Cowdery's connection to this area, as well as what the prophets have taught about the Hill Cumorah. I'll slow down here. It's just up over this hill, and you'll see it here coming up on the left. You see that sign there? It's just a little display in the yard. It says mobom.org. That's the Oliver Cowdery Memorial, and we'll be coming back to that as well in a little while when we get through with Palmyra. You don't have to stop there on this busy highway. There's a replica of all the information from the Oliver Cowdery Memorial there downtown, and another Oliver Cowdery Memorial. So you'll see that in a few minutes as we zip ahead here. Here on the right, you're going to see it's now the town hall. It used to be the LDS chapel here, and I understand the church donated it to the city to use as their town hall, and they built the new one. Down here is the Four Corners churches. The Methodist Church is closing this Sunday for good. The Presbyterian Church has only a few people that attend. Apparently the Methodist Church had 8 or 9 parishioners, and they voted to close it because they just couldn't afford to keep it going. They weren't meeting in the chapel anyway, or the main part of the church. They were meeting in another room. Those are the four-cornered churches. Okay, now we just turned right to go east towards the Grandin Print Shop and the Museum of the Book of Mormon, the bookstore, and the downtown Oliver Cowdery Memorial, which you can see here on the left. We're going to turn in here and you can see the signs up there. Here we go. Okay. We'll just take a quick look here in the bookstore, and then we'll continue the tour. Street there. Right down here is the Book of Mormon historic publication site, the Grandin Print Shop. Next to it is distribution services for the church. But here, let's just take a look in this Latter-day Harvest bookstore here for a minute. Have a lot of great stuff in here. Here's some artifacts for the Museum of the Book of Mormon. I just want to show you how this new display works. If we can get our assistant over here to show us. What we have is these interactive buttons. You can see the different locations, and she'll push the buttons and start with Jerusalem. You can see Jerusalem lights up. Okay, do the next one. Lehi's route through the desert. Lehi's voyage across the oceans to the Promised Land. And then this is Nephi's route after he escaped his brothers to go up to the land of Nephi. Land of Nephi there is a little hard to see, but okay. Then Mulek's voyage across the ocean to the Zarahemla area. Then show Zarahemla right there. Okay. Mosiah's route when he left the land of Nephi to go to Zarahemla. Push the Zarahemla's light. There, they're both together. You can see that. Okay. The land of Bountiful there. Okay. Zelph's burial down there in southern Illinois. The New Jerusalem over in Missouri. And then Hill Cumorah right here. And that's where we are right now. So that's your interactive display of the Book of Mormon. Okay, we're going to continue here in a minute and go back to the other place. We're leaving the Oliver Cowdery Memorial. And we're going to drive over here by the Smith Farmhouse and the Sacred Grove. The Smiths, when they first moved here in about 1815 or so, they lived on this main street. And they had they made refreshments and they sold things during parades and celebrations and stuff. And you can read all about that in church history, but no one knows exactly where along here they lived. But we'll just drive down the main street and turn on Stafford Road, because Stafford Road is the road that the Smith Farmhouse is on. Okay, this is Stafford Road, where we're going to turn to go down to the Smith Farmhouse. This is the way the Smiths would walk when they would come into town, get the newspaper or other things, and then walk home. Okay, now we're coming up to where the missionaries, some of the senior couples live here in these houses on the right. This is the beginning of the border, or the parking area for the Smith Farm and the Sacred Grove. You can see overflow parking there. Missionaries live right here on the right. And then we'll go down into this parking area. And you can see how people come in here to the Welcome Center, which is this little building. Behind it is the cabin where the Smiths first lived, and then Up here to the left is the Sacred Grove. If you come visit us, you definitely need to come by and see all that. And then we'll just drive down the road here a little bit and look at the Smith farmhouse. And then we'll come back, drive by the temple, around the temple real quick, and then we'll go see the Hill Cumorah. So this road was actually built by the church. The original road was to the right. You can see the Smith farmhouse over on the right there. And there's trees, the white building. That's where they lived. The road used to go right in front of that house. And they moved it over so it would be a safe place for people to walk. I'm going to go down here and turn around so you can see how they changed the road. Further up on this road is where the school was that Oliver Cowdery used to teach the kids in the neighborhood. And he stayed there with the Smiths at their house from time to time. Okay, now if you look straight ahead, you see that how that road used to go straight? That was the original Stafford Road that went by the Smith farmhouse. Now we're going to take the detour that the church provided right here. Then we'll go up here and we'll turn right and go by the temple and the chapel for the Palmyra ward, which we attend when we live out here. Palmyra, New York Temple. From the grounds you can see over to the Sacred Grove. We have a lot of youth groups that come here from all over the country. We had some out here from California recently. Right here is the chapel. We'll just drive around the chapel so you can see what it looks like. We're going to go up here, turn right, and go back down the Canandaigua Ward, head towards the Hill Cumorah. And we'll just take a quick tour around the Hill Cumorah. Okay, right up here, past this sign, driveway sign, is the Mobom Oliver Cowdery Memorial again. Just up over this next hill is where you will, it's 1 mile until we get to the Hill Cumorah. You'll see the Hill Cumorah. We're going to drive up the backside of the hill. It's a nice paved asphalt road that probably will be taken out in the next few years after they discontinue the pageant. So we're turning in here. You see there's the sculpture of scriptures up there. And then here is the actual visitor center. I don't know if we won't go on a tour of that this time. We'll do that another time. Behind here they have what's called Zion's Camp, and it's a camp for the workers here and the people that come out in the summer, the missionaries that come and help out with everything. So you can see it's a beautiful little drive up here to the top of the Hill Cumorah. There's also a walking path up here for people who are interested in that, as well as you can walk straight up the steep hill. There's some pathways along there too. Okay, we'll get out here and look around a little bit. They used to have picnic tables over here, but they've decided to just let it go natural so you can see what that's looking like. We'll walk up here and come. Both sides pretty deep forest. Then we can get up here. You can take a look down here and see where they're starting to build the stage for the pageant. You see the whole view here. So there's a couple things I was going to read here, and these are some of the accounts that people have given about this. In fact, let's just walk down the hill, shall we? So we're going to just walk down the hill here, as steep as it is. Probably walk a little bit diagonally. There's other walkways you can go down too. A lot of kids like to roll down here, but it's pretty steep to be rolling. Just to give you an idea how steep it is. See there? That's the memorial straight up, so it's a pretty steep decline. But we'll walk down anyway. Just give you an idea what it's like. And here's a stone in the ground, you can see here. That one's covered up mostly, but Oliver Cowdery talked about when Moroni buried the stone box, he didn't know how deep he would have put it because he had to put it deep enough that the erosion wouldn't cause it to wear out before Joseph got there. And they don't know how deep it was. But when Joseph got there, the stone was just at the surface. He had to dig it up a little bit. Now here again, you can see how steep this is from the tree. Okay, we'll go down to this pathway. There's a pathway you can walk up or walk down. Here's how they're setting up the stage with everything. And then you can look back up this steep hill up there. So we'll walk down the pathway, I guess, huh? Here it says, do not enter work crew only. I'll just show you what some of this stuff looks like. See these panels, that's what the stage is going to look like. You're getting it all built right there. Again with Moroni up in the top. Here's what the panels are like. That's what the surface is made out of. Down here, during pageant, they set up big tents, and the local service groups come and provide food for everybody. And the cast members all hang out over here They have their wardrobe area, their places to eat, and so on. Here again, you can see where all the work crew is setting up. See some of the stages over there. So let's walk to the other side here, over by the visitor center. Here's the grounds where everybody sits, all the audience sits. I was just going to show you a couple of things. First off, let's just look at one of these. Now the pageant's been going on for a long time. And see these big footings here they have? They built those, and it has this tower going all the way up. It's pretty high. You can see how high they are from there, all along there. See, there's one over there. And that's where they put the speakers and the lights. So there's a guy who worked out here in the it was 1940s, 1954, I guess. But he said that he was called on a mission for the church to come out here, Eastern States Mission, in 1954. And his first area was in Palmyra, New York. That's when they had started to put on the Hill Cumorah pageant. He was called to be on the work crew, so he came out here to prepare stages. Now these aren't the ones we have now, but these were the ones they had in the 1950s. And he says the director wanted a light pit at the base of the hill, so somewhere in this area, like the one we just looked at, for the sound system and so on. The light pit was at the base of the Hill Cumorah, kind of in the center of the ground. So possibly right about where that thing we're looking at right there is. For memory, it's basically about 2 by 4 and about 4 feet deep. So that'd be comparable to the ones we just looked at. But one piece, he says, there was a lot of arrowheads, shovelfuls, but one piece caught our attention. It was shaped like an axe head with no hole in it. The handle would have to be fastened to the axe head. You've seen those kind of axe heads if you've looked at the artifacts from the North American Ohio area as well as Western New York. He said we cleaned it up. It was light in weight. We had files with us for our shovels because it was hard digging, so they had to sharpen their shovels from time to time. We took files to it. This is the axe head they pulled up. It was some kind of metal, almost like aluminum. There were 2 other missionaries with him. And so they took the object to the director there, and that's the last they saw of it. But he dug that up right in here, and he said when they would dig in here, well, they went down 4 feet deep, 4 feet deep, and they dug up lots of artifacts here. So we want to walk over here just a little bit. I'll get in the shade so you can get a better view of this. But over in the distance across the street, you see a row of trees there. We saw those from the top. After Heber C. Kimball joined the church, he lived in this area, but he joined the church after the saints had left here and gone to Kirtland. And he said he worked in an area, a town here called Victor nearby. He said there were hills upon the tops of which were entrenchments and fortifications, and in them were human bones, axes, tomahawks, points of arrows, beads and pipes, which were frequently found. And that it was a common occurrence in the country to plow up axes, which I have done myself many times. I have visited the fortifications on the tops of these hills frequently. The Hill Cumorah is a high hill for that country and had the appearance of a fortification or entrenchment around it. In the state of New York, probably there are hundreds of these fortifications which are now visible, and I have seen them in many other parts of the United States. So in that row of trees over there, most of the entrenchment has been plowed under, but there's one little section of it that's not on the church's property that you can see on a topography map. It looks like it was part of the enforcement or the fortification anciently. It looked kind of like a pointed arrow, like a triangle that they would build, so they would always have a crossfire if people attacked them. Anyway, there's your Hill Cumorah. When we go back to the top, we'll do one more little segment. Okay, I just walked up to the top of the Hill Cumorah, so I'm a little bit out of breath, but we'll walk this way. This is the path along the top of the Hill Cumorah, and at the end of it is the Angel Moroni statue. So we'll walk over there for a minute. There's a flagpole here as well. And now the interesting thing about this statue is some people say, I've been told from people that lived here for a long time, that when they first dug the foundation for that statue, they broke into a chamber, underground chamber, and they filled it with cement because they needed to have a stronger foundation for the statue. It weighs a lot, obviously, that big stone on top. So it's too bad, but here's the view from the top of the Hill Cumorah. You can see this area that we're going to be talking about in just a minute. But here's the statue. A lot of people have asked about the room that was uncovered 12, 15 years ago, something like that. And I haven't been in there. I don't know if anybody has recently, but it was right down next to there, kind of on the ground, or west of the thing. So from here, we want to take a view where we can look out over this valley. Now, it's a little bit hard to tell here, but there's a line of trees first, and then there's there's some farms behind that. I don't know if you have to have a drone so you can see it, but it's on the other side of those trees. There's a higher line of trees, and then you can see there's about 3 or 4 ridges going back there. And that's what I want to look at when we're talking about this Letter VII stuff, because it was right here that Oliver Cowdery was holding it, or was writing about it. So he said here, sorry, I got to turn to it first. There was he talks about the visit of Moroni, but then he started talking about Cumorah. And you see that the road right there, where the cars are right now, that's the road to Canandaigua. So here's what Oliver Cowdery said about it. You are acquainted with the mail road from Palmyra, Wayne County to Canandaigua, Ontario County. That's the road you're driving on that you see the cars. And also, as you pass from the former Palmyra to the latter place towards Canandaigua, before arriving at the little village of Manchester, that's where we started off today, where the construction was getting off the freeway, say from 3 to 4, about 4 miles from Palmyra, you pass a large hill on the east side of the road. That's the one we're standing on top of right now. Why I say large is because it is as large perhaps as any in that country. To a person acquainted with this road, a description would be unnecessary, as it is the largest and rises the highest of any on that route. The north end rises quite suddenly until it assumes a level with the more southerly extremity, and so on. It says, as you pass toward Canandaigua, it lessens gradually until the surface assumes a common level, or is broken by other smaller hills or ridges, watercourses, and ravines. About 1 mile west, and that's what we're looking at here, not the close line of trees, but the ones behind it is about 0.8 of a mile, and there's another one behind it, it's about 1.2. But Oliver said, about 1 mile west rises another ridge of less height, running parallel with the former, meaning the Hill Cumorah, leaving a beautiful vale between. The soil is of the first quality for the country, and under a state of cultivation, as it is still today, which gives a prospect at once imposing when one reflects on the fact that here, Between these hills, the entire power and national strength of both the Jaredites and the Nephites were destroyed. So it was in this valley. By turning to the 529th and 530th pages of the Book of Mormon, you will read Mormon's account of the last great struggle of his people as they were encamped around this Hill Cumorah, the one I'm standing on right here, the one you're looking at. In this valley, this very valley, fell the remaining strength and pride of a once powerful people, the Nephites, once so highly favored of the Lord, but at that time in darkness, doomed to suffer extermination by the hand of the Lord. Doomed to suffer extermination by the hand of their barbarous and uncivilized brethren. From the top of this hill, the one that we're standing on right now, Mormon, with a few others, after the battle, gazed with horror upon the mangled remains of those who, the day before, were filled with anxiety, hope, or doubt. So then you have the statue down here. Moroni up here, facing west, holding the plates, holding the harmony plates, presumably. There's a little caption on here that talks about the Hill Cumorah monument and tells all about how it was, the symbolism of it and so forth that you can all see. Going back here, Oliver Cowdery explains, it was not the wicked who overcame the righteous, far from this. It was the wicked against the wicked, and by the wicked were punished. He talks about this hill, this same hill that we're on right here. This hill by the Jaredites was called Ramah. By it, or around it, pitched the famous army of Coriantumr, their tent. Coriantumr was the last king of the Jaredites. The opposing army were to the west, in the direction that you were facing right now. So you can see over there, the opposing army was over there. And in this same valley and nearby, from day to day did that mighty race spill their blood in wrath, contending as it were brother against brother, father against son. In this same spot, in full view from the top of this same hill, one may gaze with astonishment upon the ground which was twice covered with the dead and dying of our fellow men. And all that, of course, you can read in the Joseph Smith papers, Oliver Cowdery's Letter VII. But he says, in this vale lie commingled in one massive ruin the ashes of thousands, and in this vale were destined to be consumed the fair forms and vigorous systems of tens of thousands of the human race. So that's what happened on this hill. And that's why it's such a significant place for us to visit and think about the history that's taken place here. If you want to read more about it, like I said, you can go to Letter VII, lettervii.com. It's in the notes of the video. You can read the books and so forth, but you just need to, if you can't come out here and see it for yourself, hopefully this video gives you an idea of what to look for. Thanks. And I am out.